Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming to this sacred space. This is a place of healing and hope, and I hope that you feel that warmth and that spirit here in this place tonight. This is a time for us to gather, to encourage each other, to learn a little bit, and hopefully to be able to go forth from this place tonight knowing that we can still make a difference, that we can still make a change, that the world can still be transformed, that it is not beyond the power when we as the people choose. So I hope that you'll open up into that spirit tonight. I'm Pastor David. I'm your host this evening, and it's my pleasure to have you here in this place. I'm part of the Drug and Alcohol Task Force. I'm pleased to be the vice chair of the board. So it is an absolute pleasure to host the Drug and Alcohol Task Force of Northport here tonight. This is, again, a space for you to heal, but should you need things like restrooms, the easiest way to get to those, so during the service tonight, obviously the way you came in, these side doors might be a little bit crowded, so the easiest way would be to go out those from back doors back there, go around to either side of the building. You'll find a restroom that's handicap accessible on this side of the building, and if you go this way, downstairs to the women's room and upstairs to the men's room. Okay? After this service this evening, we will also have the tables back open again, so if you didn't get to talk to that one person you really wanted to talk to tonight, that one resource, they'll be back down there a little bit later tonight too, so you'll have that opportunity. Welcome to the space, and with that, I'm going to share our program. We are also streaming live, so we'll be recording the service tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to share this. Should you hear anything tonight you want to go back and hear again, check with our Drug and Alcohol Task Force's website, and we hopefully will be able to get that information to you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Barry Zaks. I'm from the Huntington Drug and Alcohol Counseling Center, and we are members of the Town of Huntington Opioid Task Force and work really closely with the Northport, East Northport Drug and Alcohol Task Force. So we're doing this to mark the end of Recovery Month. Tomorrow is the end of September, and just because Recovery Month ends doesn't mean that we're going to stay out of the limelight, stay out of speaking, staying out of trying to rally the community, stay out of trying to fill the places that we speak a little more. My experience is you never know who picks up the pen from our table or another resource and makes the phone call. So I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank Pastor David for, what a beautiful place. Really fantastic, So there's a lot of task forces around, and the idea is, we tell individuals that accessing recovery by themselves, given the power of addiction, is a rough ride, mostly impossible for people. So what we realize is that it's such a powerful force in the community that we want to put together change agents. We want to work together as much as possible. I'm in the field a long time somehow, and there was a time when everybody sort of acted as an independent silo, and that didn't work, and it doesn't work. So on these task forces and speakers tonight, there'll be people with personal experience, people who represent addiction treatment, prevention. We work with elected officials, social media sites, and parents and concerned neighbors. And I think the more diverse and the more we can work with everybody, the more we can get people united. And so the idea is to really bring unity and hope to the community. And that's not easy, because I look around and I look at Facebook and I don't see a lot of unity. I see a lot of disunity, and I see a lot of despair. So it's getting harder and harder to get people united around something. But we have to do it. I was speaking to a mom yesterday, and this mother called me. Her son, her adult son, had been in and out of treatment and was relapsing quite a bit, and now is in a good place getting help. But she was full of course, frustration and despair. And I told her something that doesn't sound hopeful, but it is. I told her that we can't absolve somebody from doing the work for their own recovery, for their own wellness. If there was a potion I could give somebody so that they'd never relapse, I'm not sure I'd want to do that. We don't want robots. We don't really want to work on people. We want to work with people. So I really want to be respectful of people's agency, and choices, and help motivate them. But it was a very hopeful conversation, because what I got this mom to look at was her high blood pressure and her insomnia and her anxiety and her mood swings and her impaired job performance and her distracted driving. And she didn't use alcohol or drugs. And I gave her some resources for family members. And the conversation ended up not how we can fix her son, but on helping her to feel hopeful and exercise her agency for her own wellness too, you know. So just because we can't absolve someone for working for their own recovery, that doesn't absolve us. Look, I know most of you, we're treatment people here. That doesn't absolve us from having to be effective. And help needs to take place in an atmosphere of hope and unity. And facing a troubling issue like addiction in a good atmosphere, instead of avoiding issues and, pretending it's not so bad. I think that can be the difference between helping somebody not just survive, but really thrive. There's people here from some recovery centers called Thrive. When it was new, I thought that was a terrible name. I did. And I realized it's not. I think thriving is a really great vision to have for people who don't have it for themselves. So I was wrong. And I'll tell you this, because I've been around helping professionals, they can get their own despair. There's a term, therapeutic despair. And I've seen it. And what they do, for a variety of reasons, they help people settle. They help people, they put a value on calling people survivors, keeping people living in resentment and defining themselves by somebody else or what's happened to them in the past or some history or something. And living sort of in resignation and surviving is good. But I really believe people can thrive. I really believe people can embrace their own identity and growth, looking at their internal strengths, talents, creativity, and find direction in their life, no matter what's happening on the outside of them. So there's a saying in the 12-step programs, AA and Al-Anon, and they say a lot of corny, hokey stuff. They say, let us love you till you start loving yourself. And corny as it is, the first time I heard it, but there's something to it. There's something about believing in people's ability to live their best lives physically, emotionally, and spiritually. With help, of course, and not in isolation. And that's how we instill hope. And I'm realizing we need to have a vision, not just for individuals who struggle with addiction, but for a community affected by addiction. Because a community has strengths and resilience too. So the worst thing to say about a community is, well, we're surviving, we're getting by. I don't like that language for a community any more than I do for an individual. So we want to instill more hope and unity here in Northport and the town of Huntington. So rallying individuals around recovery, well, that's why self-help and group counseling and community supports can be very effective. They get people rallied around a single issue. And from my work, I've seen that rallying a family around recovery can really help the family. So I don't see why that can't work for a community too. Finding partners and leaders to help rally the community, it's very empowering. And it empowers the community to take accountability and work for its own wellness and not just during Recovery Month. So, and we share a vision of hope with elected officials. We share it with a lot of providers, and I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I want to introduce Linda Oristano. She is the East Northport Drug and Alcohol Task Force project leader. Is that right? That's a mouthful. Yeah, wow. So anyway, so I'm going to introduce Linda to you, and thank you all for coming out.
Hi, I'm Linda Oristano, but now you know who I am, and I just want to welcome everyone here tonight. I think it's really great, and I love what Barry said about just because we're having a closing tonight doesn't mean that we're going to stop the work that we're doing moving forward. I also just want to thank Stephanie Bontempi from the town of Huntington for coming, and Dave Weber from Northport. So thank you for being here and for all your support. It's very important to us. I also just want to say a couple of things that is really important to the task force, and a lot of things that we're working on is with the youth. You know, we're finding more and more that it's really important to start giving the message at a young age, you know, and we're talking middle school. We're not even talking high school, because we're finding that once they get into high school, sometimes we've lost them already. So it's so important to be able to, you know, spread the message and educate them and offer prevention programs at an earlier age, and that's really important. The programs that are here, like Barry was saying, Thrive, you know, that is really good too, because I know that once a person recovers or comes into recovery, you know, they're still emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes physically bankrupt, you know, and it's important to have the programs out there so that they can learn what to do, because a lot of times they have no clue. You know, they don't know what to do once they put the drink down or the drug down, because that was their best friend, you know, so that's really important. And the programs that are all here tonight, you know, it's really great to have them. Seafield is Huntington Town Alcohol Task Force, and a couple of others that are here as well. Morningside, I believe, Mountainside. I'm still learning, so that's really good. So I don't have a lot to say. I just want to thank Sharon for doing all the work for Recovery Month. She did a great job. It's not easy to put a program like this together, and she really did a wonderful job with it, and everyone that has been involved. So hopefully going forward we can unite. We can continue to unite with each other and meet and talk and see where the issues are really coming from and how we can continue to make them work. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome everybody that was able to come out tonight. For those of you with the treatment centers and the recovery centers, I'm so appreciative for your work within our communities. For Legislator Bontempi, I am grateful for your presence here at the Recovery Walk, at the Night of Remembrance. It means a lot to all of us to have the support of our representatives for Suffolk County. So thank you for coming here. As we close September Recovery Month, we honor our loved ones lost and speak out for a world where treatment and service are given to those in need when they need it, in a place where there are no barriers or stigma to prevent someone, especially a loved one, from getting the help they need for a successful recovery. In the last few years, I've met many extraordinary individuals, and each one in their own way has shown me something special that reminded me of my own son, Vincent. It didn't matter how young or old they were, whether they were male or female, or where they came from. They all experienced the same very difficult journey. And this reminds me that it's so important to use our voices, because if we don't use our voices, whether we are in recovery, whether we are battling, whether we are a family in crisis, no one is going to hear you. But if it's one voice, it's a very small voice. If we all work together, it's a great voice that can create the change we need to see in our communities. Each person needs to feel connected and have support to ensure a healthy recovery. It could be having someone to listen or counsel, providing peer support to help in navigating a recovery plan, or a safe haven for social activities. It is important to understand that addiction is also a family disease. This is why we share our resources for families that support active parenting, to build connections and provide tools and strategies to have open conversations with our children. This month and all year round, our Northport East Northport Drug and Alcohol Task Force and the Town of Huntington Opioid and Addiction Task Force are working really closely with recovery organizations to ensure and provide our villages and our towns with the resources they need. Please join us to learn how prevention, family support, and the power of recovery can build connections and unite communities. Tonight we celebrate our loved ones and our community members in recovery, whether it be one day or 30 years. The important thing is that they are with you today, and together you can move forward for a place that is full of hope, recovery, and healing. On that note, I'd really like to ask and introduce someone that I feel very blessed to know. And it's a young man who a few years ago showed up at Old First Church at our very first celebration of hope. And it's times like those where you're working so hard and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not really sure. Is it really doing anything? And then I find out that that night we held the first celebration of hope. It was would have been my son's 26th birthday. And I realized that he sat in that congregation with his parents, and he went to a table, and that table was Thrive, and it was a recovery center, and he took those resources and he got help. And for the first time, when last year I was looking for someone to speak, I had Keith, who did a wonderful job, Keith, and the pastor said to me, I think you need to hear this other person, because it was the night of your first event here that he got resources and was able to find a way and a path to recovery and healing. So on that note, I'd like to introduce Gregory Schultz.
Wow. Thank you, Sharon. And you referred to me as a young man, so thank you. I really appreciate that as I get up in my age. My name is Greg Schultz. I'm a grateful person in recovery, and so thankful to be here. And Sharon, thank you so much for asking me. And Pastor David, thank you for letting us hang out in your church on a Thursday night. Wow, yeah, Sharon, you I had all this stuff to say, and then you said that, and it's like, just beautiful. But yes, this event holds a special place in my heart because of that 3 years ago. I had about 1.5 years of sobriety. I wasn't working. I was living at home. I discovered sobriety, so I was on that path, but I was lost. I was still kind of figuring out my way and trying to decide where I belonged and trying to find my purpose. And I came to Old First Church as a favor to my parents, who were members of that church, to kind of help out, in whatever way I could. But because of the rooms, because of AA, I was in that mode of saying yes to things, do the next right thing, right? And that was kind of, branded in my brain and my thought process at that time. So when I was asked to do something, I did it because of what I learned in the rooms. So I went to Old First that night, and I walked around to the tables, and I came to the Thrive table and spoke with them, and they basically said, why don't you come down and volunteer? Why don't you, we have a volunteer meeting next month, come and do it. So of course, do the next right thing. I accepted it and said yes, and here I am almost 3 years later, and I've been working at Thrive as a recovery coach, and it's been one of the greatest gifts of my life, right behind getting sober. It took me a long time really to come to a place where I was able to say, I need to quit drinking. I need to change my life. And I think that's, for so many people in recovery or struggling in recovery, we don't realize there's another way. It's like we get so stuck in our ways. And for me, I got so dragged down by so many things that were going on in my life, by failures and feeling less than and feeling not good enough and not liking myself, hating myself, not wanting to live. And when you're in that place, it doesn't seem like there's a solution. There's no way out. And I didn't know there was a way out. I thought this is who I was and who I would be for the rest of my life. I just figured I was someone who would always be angry, who would always be a pessimist, who always would kind of wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I didn't have hope. There was no hope really in my life. And it wasn't because I wasn't doing well. I had a separate career from this where I was thriving. I was living in the city. I was doing things that I dreamed of doing. And I was unhappy. I was depressed. I didn't want to live. I had all these things I thought that I needed to feel fulfilled, to be satisfied. And it didn't work. And I had no idea why. And it was the most frustrating thing to happen to me. And I never looked at my drinking. I never looked at that destructive behavior. Because for me, the drinking was my best friend, as Linda said. That was my solution to everything. It made me feel good. It made me feel like I belonged. It made me feel like I was funny. It made me feel like I was a part of something. So what was wrong with that? It was the only place where I had those feelings, where I felt like somebody, where I felt like I was worth something. So why would I give that up? The bar was my sanctuary. The bar was this. It was a church. I went into a bar. I sat at a bar stool. Everything seemed okay. Now I walk into a church basement. I sit down for a meeting. Same feeling. Same feeling. Miracle. Going from a bar stool to a stool in a church basement. And that's where I find my serenity. That's where I find my peace. And it wasn't easy. It took a long time. I'm very stubborn. When I realized I needed to quit drinking, I just stopped drinking. Cold turkey. I just said, okay. And my therapist said to me, was like, okay, you quit drinking, good. Why don't you try an AA meeting? And I looked at him like he was crazy. I said, it's bad enough I got to quit drinking. You want me to go sit in a church basement with all those people? Like, back off. Like, this is a lot. And I white-knuckled it for about 11 months. And I learned a lot about myself in those 11 months. I learned that I can't do this alone. I learned that my emotional sobriety wasn't there. I was still angry. I was still depressed. I still hated myself. I still had no purpose. I had no direction. So it took a while for me to find the rooms. And once I found the rooms, things started to make sense. Things started to come together. I wasn't working at the time. And I'm grateful for that because I was able to go to a meeting every day, sometimes twice a day. And I did that for a year. And that's all I did. And, that brought me eventually, to that shift in my brain and thinking, wow, I actually can choose whether I want to be angry at the world or not. There's no reason to be angry anymore. I was able to finally make that decision in my head and say, you know what, Greg, like, why didn't you stop with this? It's like, you're strong enough to wake up, to go through the day and be happy for what you have and to be grateful. And don't get me wrong, I still struggle with that today. My old way, it's still there. That person it exists. That person is never going away. And the best thing I can do is recognize that person, accept that person, love that person. That person's a part of me. That person makes me who I am. I'm not getting rid of that person. I'm not cutting that person out of my life. I'm accepting that person. I'm realizing that's part of who I am. But it doesn't have to define me. And through recovery, through the rooms, through the people I work with, through Thrive. And Thrive just isn't a catchy name. It's actually an acronym because everything in our field is an acronym, right? So Thrive stands for, oh boy, I put myself on the spot now. Thrive stands for transformation, healing, recovery, inspiration, help me out with the V, validation, and empowerment. 4 to 5. And that's really where, I found my people. I found my people in the rooms. I found my people at Thrive. And I can't tell you what a gift it is to be involved in an organization like that with FCA and with Thrive. And, I look around this room. I pretty much know everyone in this room, like we're all in this together, right? It's a team. We're strong as a team. We get it. We're there. We're at the front lines. We're doing the best we can. It's discouraging a lot. It's not easy. We're not getting paid a lot. So we're in, thanks, it's my boss back there. Thank you. So we're here for the right reasons. And I've come such a long way, and I never in my life dreamed that I'd be doing this and I'd be here and I'd be able to speak to people in recovery and to recognize where I'm at and where I've come and what I've done and what the work that needs to be done out there and you know, and I'm so proud of all the people in this room. I'm proud of the, you know, the work we do but there's so much work to still do, you know, like, I know we all want to see this church filled, right? We want to see overflow. We want to see people out in the streets listening. And, you know, that's the goal. And that's where we need to get. And, you know, it's frustrating sometimes because we want that message to reach so many people. And it doesn't. And that's the struggle and that's the frustration. And, you know, and stigma is a real thing. And it kept me from getting sober. It kept me from going to AA. It held me back. And, you know, and I look back on it and it's just, we got to get past that. You know, we got to work on that. And we're all there doing it. And, you know, I just wanted to, you know, I asked Sharon how long I had to speak and she didn't give me an answer. So you can complain to her if I rattle on. But I read this in the Daily Reflections book a couple weeks ago, and I needed to hear it. It was really important for me to hear it. And I think it's important for everyone to hear it. You know, the people who are in recovery, you know, we need the reminder. The people who are working, who are family members, who are struggling in addiction need to hear it. Because, and just, you know, all of us working in the treatment field, because I forget it sometimes, and I'm in it, and I can't forget that about myself. So this is from the Daily Reflections. It was a couple weeks ago. It's Vigilance. Today I'm an alcoholic. Tomorrow will be no different. My alcoholism lives within me now and forever. I must never forget what I am. Alcohol will surely kill me if I fail to recognize and acknowledge my disease on a daily basis. I'm not playing a game in which loss is a temporary setback. I am dealing with my disease, for which there is no cure, only daily acceptance and vigilance. And vigilance is what I need every day, is what we all need every day working in this field. Because we work with people who fail for the most part, right? We you know, I have clients I work with who I don't see, who disappear, and I know they're back out there. The successes are few and far between, unfortunately. But those are the people that keep us going. Those are the people that keep us coming back. They're the people that keep me in this profession and pursuing, you know, further in my career. You know, I'm finishing graduate school right now, which is ridiculous in its own. Just to think that I was able to do that is amazing. Thank you. And I did it because of recovery. I did it because I was honest with myself. And I have to remember that today I'm an alcoholic. Tomorrow I will be an alcoholic. And I can't forget that. I need to remember that every day for the rest of my life. And I think everyone who's working with people or is in recovery or has a family member in addiction has to remember that too. This is a daily fight every day. There is no cure. But I accept myself. We have to accept those people around us, the people that we work with, our family members. It's not easy. I know a lot of people don't want to look at it that way, but it's something we have to look right square in the eyes and realize that it's a fight, and it's a fight every day. It's a fight every day for me, and I can't forget that. I forgot it a few months ago, and I struggled. I wanted to pick up. I wanted to throw it all away, and I thank God I have this. I have my recovery people. I have all these people around me, and that's what gave me the strength. And I need to go. It was kind of good to go through that because the other side of it, I was like, wow, I'm going to be okay. So vigilance. That's what I need to remind myself every day, and I think that's a good message for all of us here today. We got to stay vigilant in this fight. So Sharon, thank you so much for letting me speak, and it's great to see everybody. Thanks, guys.
Wow, what a great message. Praise God. You're all in my church. You don't know how that works. Usually we call and response when we do that thing, but that's all right. Don't forget about that. Thank you. Thanks, brother. You get me. So this is a place of recovery and hope, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for that incredible message. You know, the thing that really strikes me, I started this work about 5 years ago. And the thing that really struck me from day one is the stories I started to hear from some of my fellow colleagues, my fellow clergy, mostly stories of kind of regret, saying, why didn't they ever tell me what was going on? And the one thing that really is very striking is when we go through this type of a journey, trying to do it in isolation. And we don't want to share, we're embarrassed about it, we're afraid to talk about it. But what gives me hope is when I look at you tonight, because you're here, and that means that you're willing to talk about it, or at least listen to other people talk about it. You're not trying to do it alone. You're here together. We're here as one, trying to make a difference in our community, in the lives of our family members, our loved ones, our friends. Maybe you've lost somebody. Maybe you've simply been watching somebody go through this. Maybe it's their family. But somehow or another, your life is intersected with this. And the reality is that most of us, not just those of us in this room, but most of us have undertaken that journey somehow. Or we will undertake that journey at some point in our lives. So the fact that we're willing to talk about it, that we're willing to lean on each other for it, that Lean On Me song? We all need somebody to lean on. Don't make me sing. There's truth in that, though. We all need to lean on one another. And that's what gives me hope. And that's what this Recovery Month was all about. It was about leaning on each other and hearing the stories and finding out where the resources are. And I thank God for all the people who are here as resources and who work in this field on a regular basis, who are providing things for people. Thank you for all of you. But the fact that people are willing to talk about it is what we need. And I hope that you'll keep on putting yourself out there with the people in your lives. Wherever you've been planted, bloom where you're planted, right? Wherever you are, find a way to just put yourself out there. I wear this thing, and this tells people that I pray. So people come up to me and say, "Can you pray for me?" But I hope that wherever you are in your lives, whether it's in your workplace and in your families or your friendships, that people know something about what you've experienced, what you are experiencing, and they know that you're a safe person to talk to about this topic. Because people all need somebody to tap into and just say, can you walk with me a mile longer? Help me take the journey. So thank you for being part of our journey this month. Thank you for looking for hope in our world. Our world needs hope like I've never seen in my lifetime. We need hope. That's what this is for. So the purple lights will go out. They'll disappear in a couple of days. Mine probably a few days longer because it'll take me that long to get up on a ladder. But don't let that light go out. We're going to raise some candles in a couple of minutes here, and we're going to raise some lights. But before we do that, I want to give you a gift. Because life is busy, and we often don't take time for ourselves. So would you sit with me for a moment in quiet? And just, there's a pattern to this. You can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth if that's what you're comfortable with. Would you just sit with me for a moment and just soak in peace for a minute? Let's just stay here. on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. When we walk together, loving friends are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Coming out tonight and spending this time with us, and that we hope that the next time we have a celebration of hope, that we are chock full of people. Thank you, and enjoy your journey home.